Welcome to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending March 6th, 2015. The video that you'll see tonight is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. I'll be using a worksheet that has hypothetical trades on it. They're not actual trades or actual positions that I hold. These are meant for information and educational purposes only, and are meant to show how you can use the GreenLight Investor system, the worksheet that I'm going to show you, to help you make decisions to manage your 401k investment. The goal with the GreenLight Investor is to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process by using red, green, and yellow cells to help decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. I'll go through an overview of our worksheet, then I'll highlight a few of the key features that provide a core method for allocating assets between your various 401k fund choices. Let's go right to our worksheet. Let's start out right away with going to our asset allocation questionnaire. If you're new to the GreenLight Investor and new to allocating your own asset allocation within your own 401k fund plan, this is a great place to start. You simply click on the asset allocation button, and we'll take you to a website that's going to give you 10 simple questions. And if you answer these, just go through and you fill in the box, answer A, B, or C to each of the choices, you'll come up with an allocation. I'm going to just go ahead and submit this and give you a visual of what you'll get. It'll show you your recommended allocation based on the way you answer your questions. It'll show you generally how much you should be investing in fixed income, cash, and in equities. It'll further break down the cash into money market, whether it's a fixed income or international fund, and large cap, small cap, mid cap, or international funds. So you get a pretty good breakdown just by going through this 10-question questionnaire. Once you have your allocation set up, I'll go through that in a little more depth in just a few minutes on how we use it. But once you have that set up, then you can go ahead and take a look at the different funds. Our worksheet is set up into 3 separate areas, and I'll go over those right now. First is the investment choices, and that's set up with your fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of the fund. These are set up just like the allocation questionnaire that we just took a quick look at. It's set up with your conservative investments towards the top. These are the core index funds. You'll go into fixed income and the U.S. growth and income, both of which can be used to satisfy the income section of your allocation. Then we'll go into the U.S. equity funds, international, and we'll break it down into the sector funds. You'll also see that each of these categories will break it down to whether this is a large cap, mid cap, or small cap, as well as on the international funds, whether it's emerging, European, or just an overall international or a global fund. So a lot of information about the funds to help you make wise choices for allocating the assets. Second part of the worksheet will show the performance numbers. And each week we update the performance numbers by showing you the closing price for the week, the month-to-date performance, quarter-to-date, and year-to-date performance. This is nice so you can see how your funds that you're invested in are performing against others that are in the category and in the whole worksheet. Next, we go to what I think is the most important columns of this worksheet, and that's the current weekly trends. Here we have a short-term trend, and we'll show the short-term trend, whether it's bullish, bearish, or neutral. We'll show an intermediate trend, which again has a bullish, bearish, or neutral. And then the most important column on the left side of the RS trend change column is the long-term trend. That's the trend that you should be following when you're making decisions on changing your allocations. As I mentioned, column V is the most important part of this worksheet. Everything centers around that. And you'll see that when you see a bright green light, you'll see the week over week trend of that has been one of the stronger. And when you see the bright red lights in column V, the fund that one's related to will have been one of the weaker funds on a week over week basis. So there's a lot of information as to which funds are moving in a positive direction, which ones are weakening, and which ones are trending significantly lower. To the right of column V, you'll see our weekly trend scores, and these are our relative strength scores. What relative strength does is it shows you when you have a green light on the right side, you'll see that the trend is generally positive, and when you see red lights, you'll see that the trends are generally negative. And you can take a quick glance to see which funds are generally positive and which ones are generally negative. So a lot of information just by looking at the colors. If you want to go a little bit deeper into what's happening, each week we'll give a trend score, a numerical trend score. If these numbers are strengthening on a week over week basis, that'll mean that the trend of the fund is generally trending higher. When you see the weakening or the lowering of these numbers, you'll see that these funds are generally trending lower. So a lot of that can be done visually and very quickly by just looking at the numbers. A lot of information here condensed so you can make a quick decision, not spend too much time looking over the funds. All right, with all of that said, how do we use this to look at your funds on a week over week basis? Well, I'm going to show you right now. First we'll click View, and we'll go into the custom views. And for this example, let's just click on my percent allocations. These will be derived from using the questionnaire, and again, there's another link here to the same questionnaire if you want to go to this worksheet. And once you have the allocation set up, you simply plug it in right over the yellow boxes as to what the target allocation should be. And then down here, when you actually decide which funds you want to be allocating to, you just put the 10% or the 5 and 5, however you want to break it down, into the box next to it, and that'll show you which funds you're actually invested in. Here, as we scroll down, we can see that we have the fixed income. We have 5% allocated, and here's the fund that we have the 5% invested in. Our U.S. growth and income, we again have a 5% allocation based on the questionnaire. And then here's the actual fund that we're invested in. As we scroll down, we'll see that our allocation questionnaire has a setup as a target of about 30% in the U.S. equity funds. So here we have 10%, and we have our 20%. Allocated just to 2 funds. That's all you need. There's a lot of stocks in each of the funds. So you can use as many or as few as you want in each of the categories. And again, from our allocation worksheet, you'll see that we have a 30% allocation to international stocks. And in this example, we're using a 10% allocation to the emerging stock fund. And we have a 20% to our global equity fund. And our final allocation is 10% into a sector fund, which is the T. Rowe Price real estate. And let me just do a quick example here as I shift over to see the GreenLight system and how you look at it on a week over week basis. We'll take a look starting at the bottom of the sheet this week with our sector fund. Here we can see the way we usually look at these is we'll look right down column V, that's our center, and what we'll do is we'll want to look at the long-term trend column. We'll put that right next to our asset allocation amount, and then we'll have our relative trend score for the week just to the right. So these 3 boxes, or these 3 columns, are the 3 that we'll look at to see if there's any changes that we need to make to our fund allocation. Our real estate sector fund selection has a 10% allocation. It's still showing a green light, and it's still showing a green light. So there's no action needed to be taken on this fund this week. But one thing we'll notice when we look at the numbers, we're seeing that they're generally getting weaker. So that might be something that you'd want to be concerned with, but it gives you an early enough signal that you don't have to make a snap decision. You can wait a week, 2, 3 weeks to make a decision and see if there's a reason to make a change. Here we started out back around 6.6 and have progressively gotten weaker to this week's trend score of 4.41. So we're seeing that it's weakening, but it's still been a very strong fund. On the bottom here, we're seeing here's one that's been strengthening every week. So that might be a consideration we could do either this week or see if the trends stay the same. Here, back on 2.6, we saw that it had a 0.44, and the following week we went to 0.86 and progressively went higher each week with a bright green light here to the point where we have a 2.84 trend score right now. So that one's strengthening. It's got a strong green light, so it was one of the better week-over-week fund performers. And so that might be a consideration, and that's one example of how you can use the GreenLight system the way it's set up to make sensible changes to your allocation. As we scroll up this, we'll look at our international funds, and since we see a green light to the left and a green light to the right of column V, there's no changes needed to be made to any of the fund selections this week. We'll see the same case with our 10% allocation at the top. That one's a yellow light, so that's basically a hold. There's nothing needed to be done. If you wanted to make a change for any reason, you could go to where there's a green light and a green light, but I'm usually comfortable waiting through a green light and a yellow light sequence. If it turns to a red light, that's usually when I'll take action on a fund change. Let's go up a little bit higher. We see our allocation to U.S. equities is 30%. Here we have a 10% allocation. It's got a green light and a green light, so no action is needed. And here we'll see our 20% allocation is in the same situation with a green light and a green light. So again, no actions needed as far as allocation changes. Here we have our growth and income section. We're showing that we have a 5% allocation per the questionnaire. We currently have 5% in this fund. It's showing a green light to the right, but you can see how much weaker that's gotten. And we're seeing a yellow light here. So this would be one that I would watch for one more week, see how it performs. And then if this continues to weaken and turns to a red light, then I would move this to cash or possibly into one of the green lights if those are remaining green at next week's review. And finally, let's go up to our fixed income section up here. I think we've got one more actually, but let's go to the fixed income. Here we're in a similar situation where we're seeing a green light and a yellow light. We don't have any other green lights, so again, this is one, if I see another red light occur next week, I'll most likely be moving this to the cash and wait for green lights to reappear. And if it stays green on the right side and yellow on the left side, most likely would do nothing again to make the changes. And finally, let's go to the top section where we have a 10% allocation to one of our index funds. It's got a green light to the left, green light to the right, so no action needed. But we will follow and see if this trend score does continue to weaken over the next week. If we're starting to see more red in column U, the long-term trend, we might again consider moving some of that over to our money market and wait until the green lights appear again. That's all there is to reviewing the asset allocation each week. Asset allocation sounds like a complicated term, but it's really pretty easy once you get used to using this system. The slider here just does a good job of letting you see what you have your funds invested in, and you'll be able to see if they're trending higher or lower based on the green, the red, and the yellow lights. The GreenLight Investor system was created just to be a simple and easy method to help provide guidelines for making choices within your 401k plan. I hope this has been helpful. I want to thank you for watching this video this week. If you have any questions, you can certainly contact me. My information is up at the top. Let me go back to our custom views. I'll go back to the with performance columns, hit show, and you can always call me. Visit our website at thegreenlightinvestor.org, and you can type in your questions there. All of this information and a little bit more is on the website. You can always email me at jweixner@greenlightinvestor.org, and I'd be happy to answer any emails you have regarding using this worksheet or any other questions about your 401k investing. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your week to go through and learn a little bit more about your 401k plan. Thank you very much again for watching.